Oh, I'm live. So I'm running for governor, and basically, it's because I'm fed up. So let me tell you the recent events of my life. So in 2013, a young special needs child approached me. I'm one of those school bus drivers. I was a school bus driver for 20 years. I'm one of those school bus drivers that's real approachable for kids. I basically train my kids to trust me from, kindergarten up, right? So she came to me. She told me that another school bus driver had lured her into his car at a park and in a rainstorm when she was waiting for her mom and unbuttoned his shirt, unbuttoned his pants, and asked her to fondle him. That's sexual assault. So just as a guy with good morals, I reported him, but it's also required in Washington state law. I'm a mandatory reporter. So I reported it, and I reported it to the head of personnel. And the head of personnel, I never heard back. 5 years later, it goes by, and what had happened to the girl is this guy had a good friend who was a powerful attorney in my city that I live in family courts. And I was a runner. He's a runner. And the girl is a runner. That's how I met her. And the attorney that's his friend said in public, in front of a bunch of runners, that she was going to make sure that autistic girl went to jail. I mean, where do you get these people, right? You got a powerful court commissioner making lots of money and a private attorney, and you got a poor little autistic girl who is on Social Security and SSI. And she's already got a hard enough life with a disability, but now we have this rich, powerful attorney who is going to afflict her. Now, this is why I'm running for office, okay? So this attorney's ad says, I will protect you both in and out of the courtroom. So this attorney went after her. And after she made the statement that she was going to make sure this girl went to jail, for the next 2 years, that girl was in and out of jail. Hadn't been before. And so she was escalating her life outside. And with special needs people, it's real easy to escalate. Now, I watched this special needs girl get her first driver's license. That was a big accomplishment for her. To get a car, and to get an apartment and go to community college and actually pass her classes. It's tough, and it was a struggle for her. And I also watched her running from 5Ks, which is 3 miles, up to half marathon runs, from a 10:30-mile time to a 7:30-mile time. And she's short. She's little. So I was pretty impressed with her. But unless you've been around autistic people, they're kind of hard to get along with because they just don't. They don't fit. Okay, but I get it. I've been driving a school bus for a long time, so I had no problem being forgiving about whatever her conversations were and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so then her life got so escalated that she stabbed herself in the chest with a pair of scissors and punctured her lung, trying to take her own life. And she ended up in Western State. And she's now working on her 7th year in Western State. And that attorney and the judges she worked with has stripped this gal of any chance to have anything besides a terrible life. And so, like I was talking to her, now her mother also reported this sexual assault. And CPS and DSHS treated both her and her daughter like criminals, like they had done something wrong. Here we got victims, and they're being victimized by our government. Not good. All right. So this is really starting to tick me off, right? And they're going after this girl all the time, restraining orders. It's just terrible. But she's autistic. She doesn't quite get it. Even one of the times she was arrested, the arresting officer said, "I'm not arresting her." He's a sergeant. He says she has the mentality of a 12-year-old child. And so a lot of people could see through what was going on, and they just didn't want any part of it. And so then I'm sitting there. It's about 5 years later, and she's calling me from Western State, and I'm thinking she doesn't deserve to be in Western State. She's just a high-functioning autistic girl whose life was escalated. And so her mom told me, she says, um, girls or children like my daughter usually have a life expectancy of about 37 years old. So she's between the 2 years she spent in and out of jail and the almost 7 years she's been in Western State. It's 9 years of her life. It's over 1/4 of the average lifespan for someone with her disabilities. They re-diagnosed her so she no longer can be autistic. It's just corruption. And so I just got fed up, and I said, you know what? I'm going to run for governor. And if I get governor, the first thing I will do is rescue this little girl out of Western State. Now, wait, let me tell you about the environment she's in. She's in a day room and going to counseling classes with a guy that took a chainsaw and his landlord, a guy that shot someone, a guy that, guys that are sex offenders. And here she is, the victim of a sexual assault, and she's being put in with the most horrific psychological, psychopathic killers in our state. Where do we get these people? Where do we get these politicians? Why is this happening? And they don't care. They could care less about her. They could care less about her mom. But as a bus driver, I've been working with special needs parents for over 20 years, on and off. And this is typical. Not only are the parents struggling with the life of, it's a 24-hour job to take care of special needs children, but struggling with that life. But then they're afflicted by teachers, school bus drivers, everybody that doesn't like their special needs kids. And it's always the special needs kids' fault. Why can't people take responsibility for their actions? Why can't they have compassion and empathy? I got no idea. So that's the first thing I'll do if I'm elected governor, is I will get her out of Western State. I don't know about they won't allow the University of Washington to diagnose her. If I'm governor, the University of Washington will take over. I will figure a way for them to contract all of the diagnosis for Western State, because I don't think that this girl. So in the voters pamphlet, it says in there that I ran into trouble in the islands when some people were abusing a little girl. Well, that little girl didn't make it. And so the things that happened to me was they threatened me. One of the threats was that they would lock me up in Western State for the rest of my life, and I'd never see the light of day if I didn't shut my mouth and quit reporting what I saw. And then this guy comes up to me, and I really didn't know the significance of him then, but his name was Jeffrey Epstein, and he had an island in the Caribbean. So his resolve was to give me a job to get me out of their hair. We know now that he's probably the most famous child trafficker in the United States. And we also know that he was worth, on the books, over $360 million and owned his own island and jet airplanes. So it was obviously involved in human trafficking. And so, I just thought, they'll just they just want me to go to this island in the Caribbean where they can unalive me, right? So my blood isn't yellow, it's red. I have an uncle, and he's passed away now, but he made 87 jumps behind German lines fighting the Nazis. And so he was only shot 3 times. He was a little guy and he was tough, but I'm proud to be his relative, his nephew. And so I'm not backing down. Now, while I was being afflicted by these people from the islands, a young girl came to me and she told me that she had been sold for sex in the islands from the time she was 6 years old till she was 12. And she was sold by her foster care mom. Another child came to me and told me that um, they were going to do the bad dream bloody knife thing to her, whatever that is. And so there's these kids that are involved in some funky religions that obviously they're not legal. It's child abuse. And then there was another kid, a foster care child. I don't know what he did wrong, but he had a broken arm and they hung him up by his broken arm and beat him. Now I know who all these parents are of all these kids. And if I'm governor, there'll be a complete audit on those foster care parents and their children. And so that's one of the things I do. Now, the good things that I'll do is there are groups of people, not all Christians, but mainly Christians, who go out and they feed the homeless. Now, a lot of people just see them feeding the homeless and they don't see the bigger picture. But what they're doing is they're establishing relationships with homeless drug addicts, and they're loving on them, and they're befriending them. And if they want, they'll take them home with them and rehab them. When they rehab them, it takes a 30-day blackout. They have a program that they do 30 days, and this is not through Washington State. And it is cold turkey. There are no drugs to get you off of drugs. They just quit cold turkey. And so the people that are sitting with those homeless drug addicts are people who have went through it. And so they know, they have complete empathy for the person going through the withdrawals. And the power of God is there for them. And so, gosh, it must be like, since I've been doing this, probably all these programs, and I'm not responsible for them, tens of thousands of people off the streets of Washington. That's why we don't really look like Portland, but Seattle, I guess, is starting to look like Portland. Now, personally, I'm responsible for serving more than 1 million meals to homeless drug addicts in downtown Seattle at 4th and Yesler. Now, I had a team of 60 people, but it was, I was the one with the semi-truck. I was the one doing the pickups. I was the one that bought all the deep fryers and set up the tables and stuff. And then all these people came and helped. And it was huge. It lasted for 8 years. And so it was a big deal. And so in 8 years, we got 2,000 people off the streets of Seattle and in the rehab programs. We served more than 1 million plates and impacted the Seattle police. Their thought was one of these people perished or died, it was a good thing, and then they seen that they actually could come back to life, right? And so at the end of that, the Seattle mayor decided to reward me, not like these other politicians that are running for office. He decided to reward me, and he saw the city of Seattle security always ate at my feeding because we had gourmet food. It was really a great feeding. It would be 500 to 1,200 in a place where a high day for another ministry would be 170, 200 people. So we were like 6 times the amount of people, and people would come from all over multiple counties to come to that feed. It was incredible, and it was a good time. And so the mayor of Seattle decided to reward me. He told his Seattle security, if Cowboy shows up to feed at the Veterans Wall, I want you to call the police on him. So I didn't get a big high honor like these corrupt politicians that I'm running against. I got the police called on me, So who do you want to vote for? You want to vote for somebody who's willing to go to jail? They're willing to lay their life down for you and for your kids to make sure that you get justice? That's me. And so, when I told them, go ahead, get your meal, and then call the police, everybody's like, no, Cowboy, don't do it. And so when the Seattle police showed up, I said, well, what are you guys going to do? You going to arrest me or write me a ticket? And they said, we're going to give you a group hug, Cowboy. Only a fool would arrest you. So, not everybody involved in administration and politics is evil. But there are a few that are, and you will know them by their fruits. It's like I was reading about one of my competitors, what he had done for, the homeless drug addicts and all this stuff. And I was down on Saturday. I said, hey, you know this guy? They said, we never heard of your name before. He's the Attorney General for Washington State. and that's a mile from his office, maybe less than a mile, and they don't even know him, but they know me. They know Cowboy, and so that's a big deal. You need to look and vote for people who are really putting their time and their own money into saving and helping our communities. Now, I want to talk a little bit about fentanyl. So, on my school bus, when I was going through this thing over the special needs girl in Western State, I talked to the administrator and I said, why hasn't this guy been investigated? It's 10 years later and he's still driving little kids, right? So we got a prevert that's driving kids, right? And she said, shut up or I'm going to fire you. And it doesn't work that way with me, as you already know. So they began to try to fire me. Now, so the first thing she did is she said, you're on paid administrative leave pending a psychological evaluation. I want you to put a little line under there. Cowboy took a psychological evaluation. So it was paid. So I thought, I'm just going to drag my feet about this. Now, that ain't a very nice thing to do, is it? I'm going to go horseback ride and enjoy myself. So about 6 months goes by and they're going, hey, man, you got to get that mental health evaluation. We need you to drive school bus. And I'm thinking, no, I don't. You do. You're the one demanding it. You get it. So like the not very smart people that they are, they hire a psychologist who's 70 years old from Tacoma. And his specialty is sexually abused children. So when I went down to see him, I told him the story. You should have seen his face. He was not happy. He says, look, there ain't nothing wrong with you, Jeff. You just go back to work. But those people, there's something wrong with them. They're not obeying the law. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, So that's pretty upsetting. And so when I went back to work, you're an assigned route. So I still got to bid my route out, and I had the worst route in the district because I always take the worst route because I'm good with bad kids. So I get to my bus route, and my kids all say, hey, Cowboy, they're doing drugs on the bus every day. And I go, I'll take care of it. So I go to my administrator. Now, remember, they're trying to fire me, right? I go to my administrator, and he's not trying to fire me. He's a good guy. His name is Jeff. And I say, hey, Jeff, I got kids doing drugs on the bus, and it sounds like it's pretty bad. He says, we'll get them in front of a video camera. We'll get them on camera. We'll just kick them off the bus. So that's the drill. Now, as a governor, those kids that were on camera, they have to wrestle with whether they can go to school or not because they're doing drugs. The way to deter that is to let it be public fact known that if you are doing drugs and you're in any way on school property, you will be put into the special needs program and be brought to school on a little bus. No kid wants that, right? So, but you're still giving them an education, but you have to take kids that are doing drugs, you have to separate them from the general population. Otherwise, your kid or grandkid that's going to that school is going to be doing fentanyl. Now, so let me tell you about what we had on the videotape. We got 4 kids. Now, one of those 4 kids is a 16-year-old girl, and it's her second day on the bus. She just graduated a drug rehab program, and she just had a baby. And on day 2, because they wouldn't kick, so I got them on video, and they got rid of my supervisor, and they gave me another one that was head of classified personnel, and her job was to get rid of me. And she went to work real good on it, and she's real good at it. One of them people with false narratives and all this kind of stuff, right? Anyway, so we get these kids on video, and there's this girl, she's vaping with them, and out comes, so they start off vaping. And when they do this, all the kids around them put all their windows all the way to the bottom. We're talking like 15, 20 windows, go all the way down to the bottom. And that's not legal to have the windows that low, but I'm Cowboy, if you're riding my bus, I figure you're halfway smart. You got a reason for whatever you're doing, right? And they had a good reason. So they start vaping, and then out rolls the marijuana. They start vaping marijuana. And then this kid pulls out this spoon, puts some stuff in the spoon, and he starts cooking it with a Bic lighter. Cooks it for almost 2 minutes, minute and a half, 2 minutes, on big flame. And then he puts it in his vape pipe. He takes a hit, and he just kind of rolls back and slumps off. Now, that's heroin. That's what heroin does. And fentanyl is synthetic heroin. So basically, I've got a opium den on my school bus with about 22 kids on the bus, high school and middle kids. Now, I pull the video, they take it into the garage, and we see this stuff. There's 4 bus drivers there and 4 mechanics, and it blows us all away. So I give it to the supervisor, and I meet with her the next morning. She says, I didn't see anything. That's a second-degree felony when an administrator allows Class A into a school intentionally. But she didn't realize there was all these people. But anyway, so then they're protecting her. Is she still working as a supervisor of the bus garage? Yes. Did I get fired? Yes. When I brought it to the school board, what did the school board do? They censored me. They wouldn't let me speak and make a public statement at a public hearing. That's a violation of the First Amendment. Now, the school board does an oath of office, and they uphold the laws of Washington State, the policies of the school district, and the Constitution of the state and the Constitution of the United States. So when they violated my First Amendment right of freedom of speech, they violated their oath of office, which is recall material. Then they trespassed me. I didn't even plan on going to the bus garage. Now, I have a kid in school. They trespassed me, which is a violation of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is my right to due process. They can't do that. It's illegal. Now, a lot of school districts don't get sued over it because there's not a lot of damages to collect over it. And it, costs expensive attorney fees. So I didn't sue them. I should have sued them for unlawful, what is it called when they fire you? Unlawful termination. I should have sued them for that. But, I just had enough. I just really had enough. So anyway, then my son moves up here from Arizona so he can go to the Running Start program. That's where you go to high school and you take college classes and you graduate with a college degree. And they're still retaliating against me. They tell him that he doesn't qualify for Running Start. So he says, Dad, I'll quit school, get a GED, and we'll just pay for my classes. I'm like, I'm cool. I got you 100%. I got your back, right? And so that's what we're going to do. We go to SBSCC, and the counselor says he qualifies for Running Start. They lied. And they took the retaliation out from not just me, but now down onto my son. So, this kind of corruption has to stop. And it is corruption. And these people are doing it blatantly. And I don't know if they're just idiots, but they need to be, when there's enough fear of a felony and going to jail and losing your oath of office things, when there's enough fear, you won't be an idiot anymore. You'll get yourself educated and you'll start doing things the way they're supposed to be done. So they're aware of the fentanyl on the bus. Nothing happened. They protected that administrator. And so that's just icky, right? And then we have the girl that's in Western State. She's still there. She's a victim. And is she indirectly a victim because they refused to investigate? Now, I'd pulled a dirty trick on that school board. I sent them all an email of her declaration of what happened, how he lured her into the car in a rainstorm while she was waiting for her mom, and unbuttoned his shirt and unbuttoned his pants. Now, she had never seen the part of a man before, so she didn't really know what she was looking at then. But 5 years later, she knew exactly what happened. Now, remember, she's autistic and she's special needs, so her way of dealing with things is a lot different. And you have to understand about special needs people. They don't really want to do anything that they're going to be ostracized for, because they're ostracized just because of their special needs. So this is really bad. And it's typical for children that are special needs to have their civil rights violated, to be treated like garbage, to have shorter lifespans, to be given drugs when people, just because people don't like them. And then their parents are treated badly too, treated like criminals, like they did something wrong. It's just horrendous. And so what else? So one of the things I wrote down in the pamphlet, the things that I'll do. But the first thing, I don't know what the legal ramification is, but I know the governor has jurisdiction over Western State, and placement of prisoners should be pretty easy to at least get her out of there, right? And so in my life, with all this autistic people that I've run into in bus driving, which is quite a few in my special training that I've had, the only thing you have to do with an autistic person give them a job. They're pretty much normal. And if they have a job and a responsibility, something they can be proud of, you'll never know they're autistic. The autism really kind of sticks out, and it's a spectrum. Some are more severe than others, but it really sticks out when they're escalated. When they're not escalated, you can barely tell. They're good, loving people, and so um, it's like I had this autistic girl on my school bus, and the other bus driver said she's terrible. We always have a hard time with her. Nobody's ever been able to control her. And she was this cute little blonde girl. About when she started on my bus, I think she was about third grade. I can't remember what her name was, Coley or something. So I asked her. I says, "Could you do a job for me?" And she said, "Sure." I said, "Well, you take care of my kindergartners every day, sit with them, and make sure they're okay." She said, "Chloe." So Chloe did that for me every day. And then every day she would take the kindergartners and she'd walk them all to their classes. I never had a problem with Chloe. She was probably one of the most well-behaved kids on the bus. So acceptance, treating people with dignity, these are important things when it comes to special needs. Now, I also have a plan. And it's on this channel. It's in one of my previous videos of how to get the grade point average up in school. So I have a lot of kids that don't want to go to school, and their response is because it's boring. Okay. Now they love gaming, and who doesn't love a little competition? And when they're gaming, they get on teams and they compete and they love it. That's why they have a hard time, and parents have a hard time with gaming kids. So if you started, and you always want to be ahead of the curve, but if you started a gaming community within the school, the public schools, and any group, any educational group, and you started a gaming community where they were competing on school computers with good gaming computers with great internet like fiber optics. I have an IT degree, but they would have to have a 2 point or B grade point average in order to compete or even play. I'm telling you, those kids would be helping each other to get their grades up, and they would be showing up to school and playing because they want to go play on a fiber optic gaming computer and compete big time and win awards. Now, a lot of people say, well, they're not getting exercise. Listen, this is the future. Learning to write code, building computers, understanding IT infrastructure, that's the future. And in Washington State, between Olympia and Seattle, is expected to be the new Silicon Valley of the world because of everything we have here. So the governor really needs to be a part of building the infrastructure, the fiber optics, from one end of the state to the other and from west to east, and just get us on the map. Because as you can see, remote working is great. It frees you up. Now, another thing that I'll do, all those all those men and women that lost their jobs with Washington State because they wouldn't get vaccinated, they need to come back to their jobs. They need to at least have those jobs offered to them. That was that's not how I would have handled it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I didn't get vaccinated. I did ivermectin instead. I never got sick. I got a little bit sick one time, but I got a letter from the health department one day, and they said that I had COVID, but I forgot to get sick. So I don't know whether to believe them or not, right? But the point is, if you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. A lot of my good friends and family have gotten vaccinated, and they're a little disappointed about it because some of the reactions that people are having from it. And then I have good friends that aren't vaccinated, and I don't judge any of them. Now, I want to talk to people of ethnicity. You see the hat? A lot of people say, well, he's probably from Texas, some redneck white supremacist. No, I'm born and raised in Washington. I wear a white cowboy hat because I'm a horseman, and I really believe that good guys wear white hats, right? In the IT world, you have black hat hackers, you have gray hat hackers, and you have white hat hackers. Those are the good guys. And I like to think I'm a good guy. I'm not perfect, but I'm good. Now, the fentanyl deal is a big deal, and that issue can be easily handled in our state. Human trafficking in our state is huge, and you don't see it because the corrupt politicians cover it up, and along with other people. So, but it's there, and a lot of us know about it. So there are um, groups that are formed, and they come from that world, and now they're delivering people out of that world, and those people need support, and the people that come out of that world need a place to hide out. They need a place to go to. They need a place to rehab and get their mind right again, and it's so important. And they need support. They need people that are going to be behind them. And when if somebody shows up on their doorstep from the old world and says, "You're mine. I'm taking you back," they need to have 300 bikers show up at their house and say, "You're not taking anybody anywhere ever." And that's the way it's got to be. Um, it's not completely up. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I was just talking to a pastor the other day, and this guy is responsible for rehabbing probably 2 or 3 or 4 thousand homeless drug addicts from Washington State, and he comes from that world, so he understands a lot. And this is what he told me. He said that he used to run dope, and he said he would run dope here in Washington State, and he'd drop off a big package, and there waiting at the residence where he was to deliver the package to was a Washington State Patrol who would escort the receiver of that package to wherever destination they were going. I 100% believe what he said, and I 100% believe that corruption is deep, and we have not had a deep cleaning of corruption in this state that I can ever remember. And so that's some dangerous stuff right there. But you know what? It takes people from that world to clean that world up. And I know those people. And so, and we do that not with threats of violence, but with love and peace. And one of the final things, I probably should have had it at the beginning. I believe there's an old writing. It's thousands of years old. And it says, in that day, men will not make weapons of war anymore, but they'll take those weapons of war and they'll make them into plowshares, which means like a tractor, and they'll grow gardens. And every man will sit under his vine like a grapevine, drinking wine and loving his neighbor. And no one will say, "Know the Lord," because everybody will know God. And I really believe that in world peace. I really hate people that build weapons that do genocide. It really bothers me. Shouldn't say hate, right? You're supposed to hate the sin and love the sinner, but it's really hard, and I get that. I think it's hard for all of us. But what we can do is deal with our own lives. So I would encourage everybody. Here's what I'd like to do. Now, no politician likes to talk about taxes, but I would impose a 1% food tax on all imported foods from out of the country in the state of Washington. And that 1% food tax would go to as grant money to all of our people who are running booths at our farmer markets. It would go for tractors, it would go for greenhouses, and it would go for expanding the farmers markets. Any place that Washington State has property in any city or town, then that would be open for any day that they wanted to run a farmer's market there. We would cater 100% to small farmers market. And if that tax worked out good and people agreed with it, because I'll set up a website where people can get on there and they can say, "Look, this is my opinion on this." And I'm on Facebook, Jeff Curry for office. You got an opinion? Get on there. And so I'm actually gonna politic, for a little bit. I have my own business. I have a tractor service, basically a landscaping service, and I do a lot of work. And I work with a lot of farmers and work with a lot of homeowners on their projects and help them. And it's a great time. There's nothing better than our local farmers. They're incredible. And so when the conglomerate stores are taking over the markets on your food, we should be not fighting back, but we should just be giving those farmers that are supporting our families and our food to help keep our economy down. We should be supporting those farmers 100%, because in hard times, it'll be the farmer that supplies us with the food. The conglomerates will probably shut down. And who wants the garbage they're putting in that food anyway? And then this is probably not a big issue for people, but some people it is. So in a lot of cities, there's no place where you can find untreated water. And a lot of people, that's a big deal for a lot of people. They have maps out that show people that are traveling where they can buy untreated water. And I have a farm. I love my untreated water. It's filtered, but it's untreated. And so I think that every community should have a place where there's good, tested, filtered water. And that's just, and it's free to the public. And I definitely do not believe in any water restrictions. I would like to impose a law, put a bill before our legislature to make it illegal for anybody to put water restrictions on people. We have lots of water in Washington, except here in Olympia, we have a drought for about 6 months out of the year. But the rest of the time it just rains like stuff pouring out of a boot. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Um, Enabling people to help people, and enabling farmers to grow farmers markets, and enabling schools to do better. Now, I know because of the rules and regulations and the policies of school districts, I know a lot of really talented teachers that don't feel like they're truly able to exercise their talents of teaching with freedom. And so that's that. It's like my last years as a bus driver. They're like, we don't want you to have that close personal relationship with your kids. In the prior years, they always taught you to build close personal relationships with your kids, because when they're having what do you call it, tragedies in their life, we want to know about it. It's just like my son. They said Caleb didn't have good enough grades to go to Running Start. You take a person and you put them in the ground or in an environment that's counterproductive and it doesn't support them in what they're doing, they're not going to do well. You put people in an environment where people are loving on them and they're encouraging them and they're holding them up, they're going to thrive. And those are the kinds of things that I promote. So love, 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 peace, peace, right? And so that's just where I stand on that stuff. If you vote for me for governor, you'll see huge changes. I'll commit every day. I'll hire somebody to take over my tractor business, and of my take-home income from governor, I guarantee, this is what I guarantee, 20% of my take-home income will go to help people who are feeding the homeless and taking them into programs. I'll do that. I commit that. That's a public statement because it's huge money. It's huge. I live on. I'm not in a big hurry. I'm a little stressed out right now because I'm doing this thing and I have all these people calling me to go do work. And I have to put them off. I'm the kind of guy that when you call me to do work, if I'm not doing anything or if I have a blank spot, I go fill you in, man. I go get your stuff done, and I'm fast and I'm hardworking. And I love being fast and hardworking. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And this is YouTube, so I can kind of promote myself. So my business, and I imagine now, people that will run against me, they'll go ruin my reviews. But on my Google reviews for my business, last I checked was just 5 stars all the way. And that's how I'll work in the office. I'll be 5-star. And if I treat somebody badly, then I will hunt them down and apologize and beg for their forgiveness. I'm that kind of guy. And here's the other thing. I want to be known as the guy that takes the lamb out of the lion's mouth. And then I'm talking about human trafficking and child trafficking. And I know there's a whole bunch of people out there that want to be that guy. So, God bless you and keep you and lift his countenance upon you and be gracious to you and your family, no matter what group you're from. Now, I want to say something about the ministry in Seattle that I did. That ministry, and the reason I felt like I was chosen for that ministry was because I allowed everyone to serve. no matter what your ethnic background was, no matter what your sexual preference was, no matter what your religion was. I mean, it was really weird. I had covens of Satanists that would come down and bring gifts down there, and it had Buddhists and I had Muslims and I had on my food line. I was really good friends. I haven't seen them for years because I quit doing that in 2008. But I had lesbian couples and homosexual couples and a few transvestites, and I had a lot of drunks. And they're if they were drunk, then they could only pick up garbage. But if they were sober, I let them cook and stuff. And so it was a huge feed. We had 9 propane powered burners, 7 5-gallon deep fryers where we did chicken JoJo's and fried onions. We had 2 huge woks, and one of the nicest compliments that I ever got from this little Chinese woman. She says to me, she's I she was just a little short, and she had a little short friend that didn't. And they would take excess food from the feeding, and they would go to Chinatown and they would sell it, and they'd save that money, and they would go to China twice a year, right? She comes up to me, she says, "Cowboy, you make a good Chinese." Another compliment that I got while I was down there. Black man says, he says, "Cowboy, you make a better black man than you do a white man." That was a wonderful. Both of those were wonderful comments, telling me that I would be they would accept me as part of their ethnic deal, and so that was really cool. And I've seen a lot of stuff. I've had knives shoved in my face. I've had my life threatened. That the one police officer threatened to put me away for the rest of my life if I didn't shut my mouth. And so I really feel like, God led me to do this ministry, and so that's what I'm going to do. And we'll write out the thing, but you'll see me every year. I've committed ever since I got fired from my school bus driving. I've made a commitment to run for office every single year, and this year was governor, and I could make a huge difference in the state of Washington for good, for our families, for our communities, for our schools, and especially for our mental health care situation. It's terrible when you put an autistic girl in the day room with psychopathic killers, and she's the victim of a sexual assault, and that's the only reason she's there. You're messed up, man. You ain't right in the head. You're not. The psychologist that takes care of her should not be a psychologist, because if they were, but I think there's a couple I've talked to her mom that's seen through the darkness and seen the light. That you have to figure it out. You have to listen to everybody, and you have to. Oh, look, there's my sign back there in the background. Usually part of my phone number. Anyway, I'm on Facebook. I'm an open book. If you don't like Jesus, you won't like me. But I'll tell you this: every culture and every wise man from every culture has made this statement since Christ walked. If everybody kept what Christ taught in Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7, we would have world peace. And I'm 100% in agreement with that. It's all about loving each other. It's all about forgiving each other. It's all about finding people. So this is my religion. I really believe, like, I keep the Shabbat, the Sabbath day, and I really believe that it's a requirement when you keep a holy day of God's, that at your table should be a fatherless child or a grieving widow, poor grieving widow, a poor stranger, and somebody who's totally committed to doing the work and will of God. Those should be at your table. And not only should you feed them a good meal, but you might want to put them a little present by the meal, a little gift card, $20, $100. I don't know. If I was governor, I guess I might give them $500, right? Anyway, no, I don't. But that's just how I believe. You need to help people. You need to commit your life to helping people. And I'm telling you, it'll come back on you. You'll have good health. You'll add years to your life. You'll have strength to your bones. I'm like 64, and I'm in the top 5% for my age class for health, good health. I don't take medications, none. I eat vitamins, I stay on a good vitamin. I exercise. I'm real active. So that's my story. And I'm sure other people will have other questions. I just need to get something to put on my thing for the voters pamphlet. You guys have a great day, right? I wonder if I can just paste that. Oh, look at that. Copy. You guys have a great day.